Hi, Greg. How you doing today?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Thank you for joining us.
You're very welcome. I'm happy to be here.
Tell us who you are, where you work, and what you do.
I'm Greg Deffenbaugh. I am a journalist at WOI-TV in Des Moines. It's the ABC affiliate.
What kind of work are you doing there?
Right now, I produce the 6 p.m. newscast and also go out on stories when needed.
And how is Des Moines these days?
Very interesting. We have a lot going on with politics as usual, and it's starting to gear up for the 2014 governor's race. So we have a lot going on in that arena. The Iowa State Fair just ended, and everybody always comes all over for the country for that. So that's quite a spectacle here in the metro.
And of course, that's important, but that's not nearly as important as to why I brought you here to talk about an issue that will take us to even new heights, correct?
It's true, and you've known about this for quite some time.
And finally, I get a chance to break this story.
It's true. It's an exclusive. I'm not giving it to anyone else.
Thank you. I do appreciate that. That'll be big for us. Tell me, how tall are you?
I am 6'7".
That's pretty tall.
That is very tall. It's probably the tallest you'll get.
The tallest I'll get.
I remember standing in our newsroom in Phoenix, and you took a picture up on the wall. In fact, I still have the picture of me with the logo, and you had to get down really below the assignment desk to take the picture because that's how tall I was.
6'7".
Yes.
What are the advantages in terms of reporting, in terms of being 6'7"?
Many advantages. If you are going to a story like I did last week with Claire McCaskill, the senator from Missouri, and you need to set up or you need to interview her, and there's a crowd of cameras around her, you can just take that camera and hold it up in the air, and you got a great vantage point. And if you just use the mic that's on the camera, you're going to get very good sound instead of shoving your way through the crowd, through all the other reporters there. Also, you can really see stuff from a distance too, not to really put a pun to it, but if there's breaking news going on or other events, like if you go to a scene and there's been a crime happening and you need to see over a police car or over equipment that's in the way, it comes in handy because you can pick up those things, and sometimes the competition doesn't get to see that.
So because of your height, you're getting elements perhaps of stories that the competition is not.
I have in the past, yes.
Does the competition hate you for this?
Here in Des Moines, not yet. When at my old job in southeast Iowa, they did. I had some newspaper reporters that didn't appreciate my height. When I had to work with stations from Cedar Rapids that would come down from news, I would always stand in front. And I admit, I have blocked people's cameras before because of my height when I'm in the front. And, you know, first come, first serve, so you always want to get in the front to get the best interview and location.
It's a cutthroat business.
It is.
When you're shooting stand-ups, and I know there have been times in the past, I bet you had to shoot your own stand-up, or even if you have someone shooting your stand-up, how are you working with the tripod and a photographer who is most likely shorter than you? How is that working?
I've never had a photographer, so I've done all my stand-ups on my own. At my previous station, we had kind of tall tripods, but I'd have to put the camera at a distance and do the stand-up that way. Some tripods do have the extra lever that gives the extra push-up for you. I have used that before as well, but usually I have to stand back further from the camera, and then you can edit it either on what kind of software the station has to make you look closer, and you can zoom in actually on the computer, and you can zoom out, and you can do different things editing to make yourself look not so tall, so viewers don't think you're a giant on TV.
The giant on TV. What are the disadvantages of being a journalist at 6'7"?
Well, if you're in a smaller market, they're going to have smaller vehicles for you. So when you have to take those long car rides, which I did many a times, all over the state of Iowa, you know, your legs start to hurt after a while. Sometimes, you know, I had a encounter this past year. We had a big snowstorm, and they're like, go out and do a stand-up, you know, do a pretend live shot, an as live as they call it in the business. And the sidewalk was completely ice, and the wind was blowing at least 50 miles an hour. And you know, the taller you are, the harder you fall. So I went down the hill on the ice, and thank God my camera didn't go with me, but I did go down that hill.
Have you interviewed President Obama?
Yes, I have. I have had that pleasure last year.
And I believe the president is 6'1".
Yes, he is shorter than me, and the White House staff pointed that out when he came out of the house that I interviewed him in front of, and I said, is this going to be an issue? You know, I know you want us to look the same height, but luckily there was a hill that there, and then I took my morning meteorologist with me to this interview to be my photog, small market TV, so he's behind me down the hill, and then so we tried to make it look like it was the same height. He did look a little shorter in the interview, but afterward we took pictures with the White House, and I'm much taller than the president. And he did ask me if I played basketball, and I said no. That is one talent I am not good at.
What do you mean the White House staff pointed this out? How did they bring this up?
Well, obviously I was with another. There was an anchor from Cedar Rapids and an anchor from the Quad Cities, and they were a lot shorter than me. And they were like, I asked the White House staff, I'm like, is this a sit-down interview or is this a stand-up interview? And they're like, it's a stand-up. And I'm like, well, is it going to be a problem with my height and the president? And they said, oh, that could be an issue, because they want it to look professional, obviously, and they want it to look that it wasn't done quickly. And those interviews are very quick. I don't know if you've had a chance to do that, but they rush you in and they rush you out. And so I had 5 minutes with him, so we had to set up quickly. And I looked at Brian, my morning Met that I took with me, and I said, "Is everything look good?" And he's like, "We're good to go." And as you know, meteorologists are the best photographers in the business to take with you. But I mean, you really want to get set up quick, and I thought that was going to be an issue with them to make everything look good. And they were confident that we got it down and it looked fine. So I was happy with the interview, and I guess they were too, because I never got a call afterwards. They just sent me the pictures.
Are you saying that your height had something to do with how professional this looked?
It could have, yeah. And I've had those problems in the past. I've interviewed the governor of Iowa, and he came down to our station in Ottumwa, and there were two chairs that I did side by side, and I looked gigantic next to him even in these chairs. So one thing that I've always done and that I tried to stop doing is I'd slouch down to make myself look the same height as him. But obviously in this business you want to have a lot of confidence, so then I would stand up straight. And my news director always say, you know, you got to look good and you got to put your shoulders back. And so, I mean, I've had those instances where my interviews when I first started out, they didn't look so good because I would try to make myself look I was the same height as them. But after a while, you just gotta be like, you know, you gotta own your height, and you gotta live with it, because that's what God gave you.
So when you're interviewing the president, who many would agree is the most powerful man in the world,
yes, and
you're standing about 6 inches taller than him, does that make you feel powerful?
No. It's funny you say that, because I always think about that interview whenever I'm like writing some story that is complete fluff or entertainment-wise for the newscast, and I'm like, I went from interviewing the president to writing about like a bike trail, you know, and you cover all things in the news business, and you know, when I look back at that interview and I really think, did I really make a difference with that interview? I hope so, but the things that you think about during the interview is not what you think about afterwards. I was just wanting it to look good, making sure my suit looked good, that I was looking at him in the eye, and that I wasn't mumbling or anything during that interview, because, I mean, that's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, especially for somebody from small market 200.
Do you think you're the tallest journalist to ever interview the president?
Maybe. I mean, I know, and I brought this up to you before, that David Gregory 6'5", and Brian Williams is a little shorter than him. So I think I got the NBC News staff beat.
That's important.
I'm not sure about the other 3 networks, but I think I'm pretty good with NBC. So maybe I am. Maybe I'm one of the tallest. I'm not sure about foreign interviews he gives, but you know, I did look down to him in the interview per se, but not to give him any, you know, not to make him feel any smaller, but he did comment on how tall I was.
Now, I'm not going to count people like Shaq as a journalist because I know he's interviewing people now for the NBA, and he's pretty tall. So I'm going to take Shaq out of the mix and other perhaps former athletes out of the mix. But do you think there is a possibility that you are America's tallest journalist?
Yes. I'd put money on that.
All right, we're done.
I've only met one person taller than me.
What'd you say?
I've only met one person taller than me.
Not talking about journalists in general, just one person?
Yes, one person taller than me.
Okay.
In my whole entire life.
So you could be America's tallest journalist?
Yes.
And is that distinction important to you?
If it's going to get me a job in a big market, maybe it is.
Now, I'm not sure if this is going to throw you for a loop, but there's a door frame behind you.
Yes.
Can you stand up momentarily and stand by that door frame and give us a sense of how tall you are?
Yeah, but Keith, I don't have to duck to go through this door. As you can see, I think it's probably a 7-foot door frame. I got 3 inches there. But when I lived in Ottumwa, the ceilings were about, I'd hit my head all the time. Let me just say that. I've hit my head on doorways before, and especially in interviews going into stuff, because you got your camera, you got your gear, you got your tripod. The height is the last thing on your mind.
That's a good way to start an interview.
Yeah. Holding your head.
Is there anything you would like to add to this very intellectual conversation about the fact that you might be America's tallest journalist? Did we leave out anything that's crucial to let people know?
Well, if you know anybody that's tall that wants to get in the business, I encourage it.
Should we put a challenge out there for a taller journalist to come forward?
I think you should. I think you should put that out there. You know a lot of people in this business, so you should be getting emails on that.
Okay. Greg, thank you so much for your time. I hope your Pirates do well, and I hope that you no longer hit your head on the way into interviews.
Well, I appreciate that, Keith.
All right. Thanks for giving us some time.
You're welcome.
All right. Bye-bye.